So my best buddy passed away a couple of days ago, and so this is just a short video about him and our time together. I've knew John for about 15 years, and but just in the last couple of years we got to be really close. We're both shared a journey in recovery, and John's main objective in his recovery journey was to rebuild a relationship with his family, young teenage boys, and he he realized that a lifetime of as an addict or an alcoholic, which is a very selfish way to live, had there was a toll to pay, and his kids had paid that, and he paid that, and anyway, he wanted recovery so he could be that dad, and that was happening. And he took his dad. We did their course together last spring, the Dads in Recovery course, and we traveled together across the country last year in our motorcycles. And as he was healing and growing in his relationship with his higher power, it was just great to be with him and watch this and be part of his experience of growth and awakening, and it's not like the 50 some years before that he hadn't been doing work. He was a member of the Center for Spiritual Living for many years, and he'd read a lot of books, and he'd really been looking, as most addicts and alcoholics are, they call it spirits for a reason. We're looking for that freedom there, and some of us find out early, and some of us find out later that there is no freedom there, that drugs and alcohol doesn't really work for us, the freedom short term. So Johnny found out, though, and he figured it out, that wasn't the way, and you remember him saying to me, "Wow, why didn't you tell me about this a long time ago?" And I said, "Well, I have, but you weren't ready. You weren't listening." And so we spent the last couple of years together, really glued together at the hip. And about 4 months ago or so, he got diagnosed with cancer. And even though he and his wife, who became, all of a sudden, really the door opened in his relationship with her and him and the boys, and they looked at a lot of alternative possibilities for cures, and they really did the job of trying to heal his body. And yet at the same time, he was so courageous. I watched him go through taking care of all the practical things that a man often doesn't get to do when he dies. You don't have the time to do the things he got the time to do. Spending so much time with his sons, and what an example as a dad, in my opinion, and rebuilding those relationships and sharing his love, and jealously guarding that time, and even at the very end, to kind of orchestrate his passing with just he and his wife and his boys, and so I honor him. I honor him for being like recognizing that there was room to grow as a dad, and doing that work, and sticking to it. Never in the last 4 months did I see any self-pity or fear. He just really was present. He said that the awakening, the true awakening, came after he got his diagnosis. He realized that, wow, that it was all a story, and that there was only now, and his relationship with universal intelligence or consciousness or God, all relied on that presence, and it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. So I honor him as being one of the men in my first, the prototype of our Dads in Recovery, and encouraging me to do that. And he and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and he said, it was so meaningful for him, and to be with the other dads that we did the course together with. Well, I just want to share that. It's hitting me a bit. On Monday I was there, and as they came to pick up his remains and all of that, and and to be there with the family. I'm blessed to be able to be there with the family. I know John was concerned about it, and had been concerned about his boys after he was gone, and there's men to be there with him. His mother, of course, is there, and his family, but there's men to be there with him, and they, you know, if you're one of those men that knew John and remember his sons, that they need us to be there, the community of men to come around them, and yeah, and for me personally, it's a you know, sometimes when death comes to visit has in my life, you know, and I've been close many times with people who have passed, and even my own brother's really sick at this time, and you know, it's a time to reflect, to be present, and to feel. You know, there's stuff that happens, and sometimes a little sadness, sometimes a little anger, and just to acknowledge it and allow it and breathe into it. And so that's been my process this last little while. So that's it. It's kind of taken me off the game. You know, I've been also saying, "Oh, you're supposed to be working on your dad's in recovery," and it's okay. I just, this has really taken my attention, and that's okay. You know, this the course and the, you know, my purpose of helping men to become great dads will be there, and you know, it took a while for me to acknowledge, you know, that okay, it's just be with what's happening, experience my own grief and my own experience of with my buddy passing. So I'm doing that. I just thought I'd share it with you guys. So I love you, and that's it. Thanks. Cheers.